The space station called Blue Harbor floated like a shining ring in the dark sky. From far away it looked small and calm, but inside it was full of sound, light, and life. People from many worlds came there to trade, rest, and talk. Machines hummed softly and voices mixed in the air like a busy market. Ryan worked there as a ship mechanic. He was not famous or rich. He wore plain clothes and liked simple things. Every day he woke up early, washed his face in cold water, and walked to the hangar with a cup of tea in his hand. His small home stood near the dock where he could see ships rise and land through his window. He liked watching them because every ship meant a new story, a new face, or a strange object from another planet. Ryan did not speak much. The traders called him quiet but reliable. He was known for fixing anything that came his way, whether it was a human shuttle or an alien cruiser. He never cheated, never argued, and never showed anger. He only smiled even when work was hard. That small smile was his habit. People said that Ryan's grin could calm even the most worried pilot. One day the hangar lights turned red for a moment, showing that a new ship was arriving. Ryan looked up. The vessel was sleek and silver, unlike any he had seen before. Its surface reflected the station lights like a mirror. As it landed, workers stopped to stare. The ship carried the symbol of the Volari, a proud alien race known for their sharp minds and graceful design. They rarely came to human stations, so everyone watched closely. When the ship doors opened, a tall woman stepped out. Her skin had a faint blue glow, and her eyes were bright silver. Her clothes shimmered softly, showing marks of her rank. She looked around the hangar with calm pride. The air felt different when she walked in. People whispered quietly, guessing her name and purpose. She spoke with the station officer in a smooth voice that carried through the noise. "My ship's core engine is damaged," she said. "I was told this station has skilled hands." The officer looked nervous and turned to Ryan. "We do. Ryan is our best mechanic." The alien woman looked at Ryan for a moment. Her eyes studied him from head to toe. She seemed surprised by his simple appearance. Ryan only nodded and said, "I can take a look." She followed him to the service bay where tools and spare parts lined the walls. Ryan moved around quietly, examining the ship's side panels. He touched the surface gently as if he was greeting it. The woman watched his hands carefully. "You do not use a scanner?" she asked. "Sometimes hands tell more than machines," Ryan replied with a small grin. Her silver eyes softened. "Interesting. My people trust data, not touch. I trust both," he said. "Machines are alive in their own way. They talk through sounds and signs." The woman tilted her head slightly as if she was not sure how to reply. "You speak as if you know them personally." Ryan smiled again. "I spend more time with machines than with people." For a long while they worked together. Ryan opened the damaged panel, cleaned the connections, and replaced a few parts. She watched every move. Sometimes she asked about his tools, and sometimes she just stood quietly listening to the hum of the engine. She did not act proud like others of her kind were known to be. Instead, she seemed thoughtful, almost curious. When the work was done, Ryan tested the engine. It came to life smoothly, filling the air with a low, strong sound. He wiped his hands and stepped back. "It should run fine now," he said. The woman looked pleased. "You work fast." "Just practiced," he replied. She nodded slowly, then said, "My name is Soraya of Volari." "Ryan," he answered simply. Soraya repeated his name quietly, as if she was trying to understand it. "Ryan," she said again, then smiled faintly. "You are different from what I expected." Ryan tilted his head. "What did you expect?" She thought for a moment. "When I heard of humans, I imagined noise, rush, and impatience." "But you are quiet," Ryan shrugged gently. "There is time for noise and time for calm." "I like calm," Soraya gave a soft laugh. "Perhaps that is why your machines obey you." After the repair, she paid for the service and stayed a little longer. They sat near the hangar door, where the wide window showed the open stars. Ryan offered her a drink of warm tea, and she accepted, though she looked unsure how to hold the small cup. "It smells strange," she said, sniffing it carefully. "It helps when work is long," Ryan replied. She took a sip and blinked. "It is bitter, but pleasant." "That is how many things in life are," Ryan said, smiling again. Soraya looked at him quietly for a while. Her expression softened in a way that surprised even herself. No one had spoken to her so simply before. She was used to people bowing or keeping distance. Ryan did neither. He just treated her like any other traveler. Before leaving, she said, "You may see me again soon. My ship still needs balance work. I will be here," Ryan replied. The next morning, the hangar returned to its usual rhythm, but people still talked about the alien woman and the quiet mechanic who fixed her ship. Some said she was a high noble of her world. Others thought she was a diplomat or scientist. Ryan did not join the talk. He only went back to his work. Days passed and life moved normally. Ryan fixed 2 small cargo shuttles and helped clean the outer docks. At night, he sometimes looked up at the stars and wondered if Soraya was still near. He did not understand why he thought of her, but he did. Her calm eyes and steady tone stayed in his mind. Then one evening, while he was closing his workshop, the hangar lights turned red again. A familiar silver ship entered the dock. Ryan's heart lifted slightly, though he did not show it. When the ship doors opened, Soraya stepped out, this time wearing a lighter outfit. She looked more relaxed. "Engine still fine?" Ryan asked. "Yes," she said, smiling faintly. "I came for something else. My stabilizer needs adjustment." He nodded and opened the ship's side hatch. While working, Soraya asked him about human stations and how people live so far from Earth. Ryan explained that humans like to build wherever they could breathe, even in places where air had to be made by machines. He said that humans built homes not only on planets but in the space between them, because they like to see new things and share them. Soraya listened with interest. "Your kind sounds restless." "Maybe," he said. "But we are also hopeful." "Hopeful for what?" she asked. "For tomorrow," Ryan answered simply. Soraya looked thoughtful again. "On my world, we plan years ahead. We do not speak of tomorrow. We speak of centuries." "That is impressive," he said. "But sometimes a single day can change a life." When the work was finished, Soraya thanked him again. She looked at his hands, rough and marked with work. "You build peace with these hands," she said quietly. Ryan shook his head. "I just fix what is broken." "That is what peace means," she replied. For a moment, they stood in silence. Then she turned toward her ship. Before stepping inside, she said, "Ryan, you have a strange power." "What power?" he asked. "The power to make others calm," she said. "Even when things go wrong." Ryan gave his usual grin. "Maybe calm is catching." She smiled too and entered her ship. As she lifted off, the hangar lights reflected on her silver hull. Ryan watched it disappear into the dark sky. The quiet hum of the station filled the air again, but the place did not feel the same anymore. That night, he sat by his window with another cup of tea. Outside, the stars looked brighter than before. He thought about Soraya's words and wondered why an alien of such grace found peace in a human worker's grin. He did not have an answer, but the question made him feel alive. In the days that followed, Ryan kept working, but something new had started. He did not know it yet, but that meeting was the beginning of a story that would reach far beyond Blue Harbor. The days at Blue Harbor passed quietly. Ships arrived, goods were traded, and the sound of engines never stopped. Ryan continued his work as usual. He liked the steady rhythm of repairs and the smell of oil and clean metal. He was used to simple days and small surprises, but people in the station still talked about Soraya, the alien woman who had called him by name. Some said she was a royal visitor. Others said she was part of a science council from her home world. No one really knew. Her ship had left weeks ago, and Ryan did not expect to see her again. One morning, while he was working on a cargo ship, the hangar lights changed again to show an incoming vessel. The light turned pale silver, which meant a foreign diplomatic ship was arriving. Ryan lifted his head and saw the same shining symbol he had seen before. The ship of the Valari glided smoothly into the dock. His heart moved slightly, though he did not show it. Soraya stepped out, dressed in formal clothes with silver lines that caught the light. Behind her came 3 other aliens, taller and dressed in dark uniforms. They looked serious and proud. The station workers stopped to stare. Even the officer who managed the dock stood straighter than usual. Soraya looked around with calm eyes until she saw Ryan. Her face softened slightly. She walked toward him with steady steps while the others followed. "Ryan," she said, "I have returned as part of a trade meeting between our people." "Welcome back," he said simply. She smiled faintly. "You still greet me with few words." "Words are better when they mean something," he replied. Her 3 companions looked at him curiously. One of them, a tall male with pale hair, frowned a little. He whispered something in his language, and the others smiled in a quiet way that Ryan did not like. Soraya noticed it and said something sharp in return, which made them silent. Then she turned back to Ryan. "Would you check my ship again later? It has been through many journeys since you fixed it." "Of course," he said. Later that day, Ryan worked on her ship again while the trade meeting took place in another part of the station. The hangar was quieter than usual. Only a few assistants moved around, cleaning and carrying tools. Soraya's companions returned before she did. They watched Rion as he worked. The one with pale hair came closer. His name was Kale, and his tone carried pride. "You are the human she spoke of?" he asked. Ryan looked up. "I fix ships. That is what she came for." Kale crossed his arms. "You speak to her as if she is one of you." "She speaks to me as one of herself," Ryan said calmly. Kale gave a cold smile. "You humans are strange. You smile when others would bow." Ryan only gave his small grin. "Bowing is not the only way to show respect." Kyle's expression tightened. He looked at the others, who gave low laughs. They spoke quickly in their own tongue. Rion did not understand the words, but he knew the tone. They were amused by him. He said nothing more and continued his work. His calmness seemed to confuse them even more than if he had argued. When Soraya returned, she noticed the quiet air and looked at her crew. "What happened?" she asked. Kale shook his head. "We were just learning about human manners." Ryan straightened and wiped his hands. "Your ship's outer panel had loose seals. It is fixed now." "Thank you," Soraya said. Then she looked at her crew again. "Do not test his manners further." They lowered their eyes slightly and left to prepare the ship. Later that evening, a gathering was held in the main hall of Blue Harbor. Representatives from many species were there. The room was bright with colored lights and filled with soft music. Tables carried dishes from different worlds. People talked and laughed. It was meant to show unity among the visitors. Rion did not usually go to such events, but the station officer asked him to attend because he had helped prepare several of the ships. He went quietly, wearing clean clothes and his usual calm face. Soraya stood near the center, speaking with the head of the Human Council. When she saw Rion, she raised her hand slightly in greeting. He nodded back and found a place near the wall, where he could see the view through the wide window. Stars shone like silver dust outside. After a while, Kale and two others came near him again. They had cups in their hands and amused looks on their faces. "So the mechanic joins the leaders tonight," Kale said. Rion gave a small smile. "Everyone here is part of the same station tonight." Kyle leaned closer. "You think she truly respects you? You fix her ship and think it makes you equal?" Ryan did not answer. He just smiled again, calm and quiet. Kale frowned. "You hide behind that grin." Ryan looked at him and said in a soft tone, "No one hides behind peace. It only feels strange to those who do not know it." Before Kale could answer, Soraya approached. Her silver eyes moved from Kale to Ryan, reading the air around them. "Is there a problem?" she asked. Kale straightened quickly. "None at all, my lady. We were only speaking of human ways." Soraya looked at Ryan. "And how are human ways tonight?" "They are holding fine," Ryan replied with a small grin. Her lips curved in a faint smile. "I see," she turned to Kale and said quietly. "Remember that respect is not measured by noise." Kale bowed slightly and stepped back. As the night went on, the trade meeting continued with speeches and greetings. The Human Council thanked the Valari for their visit, and the Valari leader spoke about peaceful growth between both sides. Soraya was invited to speak too. She spoke clearly and with grace, explaining how trust must be built through small actions, not just words. Many listened closely, impressed by her calm voice. When the speeches ended, music started again. People returned to lighter talk. A human merchant came near Ryan and whispered with a grin, "That alien woman looks your way a lot. Maybe you fixed more than her ship." Ryan just smiled quietly and said nothing. He did not like such jokes, but he knew the man meant no harm. After some time, Soraya came near Ryan again. She held a glass of clear blue drink in her hand. "Do humans enjoy these gatherings?" she asked. "Some do," Ryan said. "I like quiet corners." "Then we share a thought," she said softly. "I prefer the stars to the crowd." They stood together near the window. The stars outside looked endless. Ryan pointed toward a faint light far away. "That one is home," he said. Earth. Soraya looked at it and said, "It is small from here, yet your kind has reached the edges of the map." "We are curious," Ryan said. "Maybe that is our strength." "Curiosity can be a great bridge," she said. "Or a great risk." "Both," he agreed. A sudden voice interrupted them. It was the same merchant from earlier, speaking louder this time, maybe after a few drinks. "Hey Ryan, your friend seems to think you are special. Did you become her assistant now?" The room went quiet for a short moment. Ryan stayed calm as always. He just gave his small grin and said nothing. Before anyone could laugh, Soraya turned to the merchant. Her tone was firm and clear. "This man belongs to me." The words hung in the air. Everyone looked at her. The merchant's face turned pale and he stepped back. But Soraya's eyes stayed calm. Ryan looked at her with surprise. She saw his expression and said softly, "It is a phrase of my people. It means he stands under my protection and my honor. No one shall speak down to him." The room stayed silent for a moment. Then the music slowly began again. People began to whisper among themselves. Some smiled in amusement, others in wonder. Ryan did not speak. He only looked at her with his calm eyes and gave that familiar small grin. Soraya looked at him and laughed softly, the first real laugh she had shown that night. "You see," she said, "even now you stay calm." "I just fix what is broken," he said. "Sometimes that includes words." She looked at him with quiet respect. "Maybe you fix more than that." They stood together until the gathering ended. When everyone left, the hall became quiet again. The stars outside still shone through the window. As Ryan walked back to his workshop, he thought about what had happened. He did not feel owned or embarrassed. He understood what she meant. It was her way of showing respect in front of others. It was her way of saying that kindness mattered more than pride. That night, when he reached his small home, he sat by the window and looked at the stars again. His grin came naturally, gentle and calm. Somewhere out there, Soraya was thinking about the same stars. He did not know it yet, but that single sentence, spoken in a crowded hall, would soon become a story that everyone in the galaxy would talk about. The story of the banquet spread quickly through Blue Harbor. Everyone had heard about the moment when the alien woman, Soraya of Valari, stood before the crowd and said, "This man belongs to me." The words echoed through the halls for days. People repeated them with wonder, laughter, and curiosity. To humans, the sentence sounded strange. Some thought it meant love. Some thought it meant ownership. But those who knew the alien language understood that Soraya's words were a mark of honor. Among the Valari, to claim someone in public meant to protect their dignity and to bind them in respect. Still, few humans understood this clearly, and so the story grew larger than it was. Ryan became the quiet center of attention. Everywhere he went, people whispered softly as he passed. Some smiled kindly, some teased him in good humor, and some asked endless questions. "Is it true, Ryan? Did she really say it?" One worker asked while tightening a bolt on a shuttle wing. "She said it," Ryan replied. "And what did you do?" "I smiled," he said. "You always smile." The worker laughed. "That is easier than talking too much," Ryan said, his grin calm as always. Despite all the talk, Ryan's daily life did not change much. He still repaired ships, cleaned tools, and drank tea near the hangar window in the evening. But inside his heart something had begun to shift. He did not know what it was, only that his thoughts wandered often toward Soraya. He remembered her calm eyes and her voice that carried strength without harshness. Soraya, on her part, stayed on the station for a few more days after the banquet. Her ship required system adjustments, but Ryan suspected that was not the only reason she remained. Sometimes he saw her walking through the corridors, studying human art displays or watching the young cadets train in the observation deck. Whenever she saw him, her face lit up slightly. One afternoon, she entered his workshop again. Ryan looked up from a half-repaired engine. "Welcome back," he said. "You never seem..." "Surprised," she said with a smile. "Work is easier when nothing surprises you," he said. "Then you must be the calmest man alive," she replied softly. He placed his tool down and looked at her. "You gave people a lot to talk about." "I heard the noise," she said. "Your people enjoy stories." "They do," Ryan said. "Sometimes they turn truth into music." "Do they think I meant to own you?" "Some do. Some know what you meant." Soraya looked thoughtful. "I did not plan to speak that way." It came out because of how that man spoke to you. In our culture, to say that someone belongs to you means that person stands under your honor. I wanted them to understand that I will not see you treated as lesser. I know, Ryan said. You did not need to explain. She looked at him with a gentle expression. Still, I wanted to, he smiled. It was a good moment. I think you taught them something. She tilted her head. Taught them what? That respect has many languages, he said. Soraya's eyes softened. She stepped closer to look at the engine he was fixing. You humans speak with small words that hold big meaning, she said. It is not the same in our speech. We use form and title. You use heart? Maybe we have to, Ryan said. Titles are hard to earn in a new world. Your kind builds so fast, Soraya said. You fill empty skies with homes. My people watch from a distance and wonder how you do it. We work, we hope, and we smile, Ryan said. That is our way. Soraya studied him quietly. Your smile seems to carry something beyond patience. It feels like a promise. Ryan looked up, his face calm. A promise that nothing small can break peace. She smiled back. Maybe that is the strongest promise of all. For a moment they stood in quiet understanding. The hum of the machines filled the space between them. Then Soraya turned and looked at a small shelf on the wall. On it sat a line of old mechanical pieces that Ryan had collected over the years. You keep broken things, she said softly. They remind me of time, he said. Each one tells a story. A mistake, a repair, or a lesson. She touched one gently. In my world, we melt broken things and make new ones. We do not keep the old. Maybe that is why your world shines brighter, Ryan said. She shook her head. Maybe that is why yours feels warmer. Her words stayed with him long after she left. That night, as Ryan sat by his window, he thought about what she had said. He realized that Soraya saw meaning in the small things he never explained to anyone else. The next morning, the station prepared for the final day of trade meetings. Soraya was to leave soon, and her people were already loading goods into her ship. Ryan went to check her engine one last time. When he arrived, Kale was already there, giving orders to the crew. Kale saw Rion and nodded coldly. The mechanic returns. Rion said nothing, only began his checks quietly. Kale watched him work for a moment. You gained much attention. Even my people speak of you now. I did not ask for attention, Rion said. That makes it stranger, Kale said. Soraya rarely speaks for anyone outside our kind. Maybe she saw something worth speaking for. Ryan said without pride. Kale frowned. She is noble. You are human. Our ways are not the same. Ryan looked at him calmly. That is why they need to meet. Kyle said no more. He turned away and left the bay. A short while later, Soraya came in. Was he polite? She asked. As polite as he knows how to be, Ryan said with a small grin. She sighed softly. He believes protection should be given only to those of our kind. He does not understand that strength is not measured by blood. Ryan closed the engine panel and said, Understanding takes time. Even for humans, Soraya nodded. You are wiser than most leaders I have met. I just fix what is broken, he said. That is what wisdom is, she replied. Later, the final ceremony began. The hall was filled again with music and light. People from many races came to say farewell to the Valari group. The Human Council thanked them for cooperation, and gifts were exchanged. When Soraya's turn came, she stepped forward with calm grace. Her voice was clear as she spoke. Our visit has shown us more than trade. It has shown us the heart of humanity. They live with courage and build with kindness. I have met one among them who reminds me that true power lies not in command but in calm. Many turned their eyes toward Ryan, who stood quietly at the back. He gave his usual small grin and a few people smiled in return. Soraya continued, Let this friendship grow beyond this place. Let us learn from each other. My people will remember this station, and I will remember the man who fixed my ship and taught me peace. Her words filled the hall with quiet respect. When she finished, everyone clapped softly. Rian stood still, feeling warmth rise in his chest, though his face stayed calm. After the ceremony, Soraya walked to him. I hope my words did not trouble you, she said. They were good words, he said. I spoke truth, she said. Your people may think I meant something else, but I only spoke of honor. I know, Ryan said gently. Truth never needs to hide, she smiled. You always make heavy things sound light. Maybe that is the only way to carry them, he said. When it was time for her to leave, they walked together to the docking bay. The silver ship stood ready, shining under the lights. Crew members moved quickly, preparing for departure. Sariah turned to him. "You have given me more than help with my ship. You have given me a mirror to see my own world differently. And you have given me something to think about," he said. "I never knew that a smile could reach across stars." She looked at him for a long moment, then said quietly, "When I said you belong to me, I meant it in a way my people understand. But perhaps in another way it is I who belong to the lesson you gave me." Ryan gave his calm grin. "Then maybe we both belong to the same truth." Sariah stepped closer and said, "If I return, will you still be here?" "I always am," he said. She smiled once more, then turned toward her ship. The door closed behind her and the engines began to glow. The ship lifted slowly, light spilling across the floor. Ryan watched it rise and fade into the wide dark sky. The hangar fell silent again. Only the soft hum of machines remained. Ryan stood still for a long time, then walked back to his workshop. He sat beside his window with a fresh cup of tea and watched the stars that filled the view. Somewhere out there, a silver ship was moving through the night. He smiled, the same quiet grin that never left him. It was the grin that had started a story far greater than he could imagine, a story of peace, patience, and the strange bridge between two distant hearts. Blue Harbor went back to its quiet rhythm after the Valari ship left. The hangar lights shone the same way each morning. The tools clinked in Ryan's hands and the smell of oil and clean air mixed as usual. Yet something inside him had changed. Every time Ryan looked at the stars, he thought about Sariah. He remembered her calm voice, her graceful way of speaking, and how her eyes seemed to hold more than light. He tried not to think too much, but her image returned each night like a soft echo. The people around him still spoke of the event at the banquet. For them, it had turned into a story they liked to repeat. Some laughed kindly, some spoke with admiration, and others made small jokes. Ryan never argued. He only smiled and kept his peace. Weeks passed. Then one morning, while Ryan was cleaning a fuel filter, the dock lights changed again. The alert color was silver blue. That color meant one thing to him. His heart moved slightly, though his face stayed calm. He turned toward the window and saw the familiar glow of a Valari ship entering the station. The same smooth shape, the same shining mark. Sariah had returned. When the ship landed, Ryan walked toward it. The doors opened and she stepped out, wearing a lighter outfit that looked both elegant and simple. She saw him and smiled in a calm, knowing way. "Still at work," she said. "Still fixing things," he replied. "I knew you would be," she said gently. "You never change." "Machines keep me steady," he said. "And maybe you keep the machines steady," she answered. Ryan smiled. "Maybe that is the trade." She looked around the hangar with a calm expression. "Your station has grown since my last visit. I see new workers and new ships. Humans like to build," Ryan said. "When something ends, we make something new." "Do you never rest?" she asked. "Sometimes," he said. "But I rest better when I work." Sariah laughed softly. "You sound like my engineers." "I am not sure if that is good or bad," Ryan said. "It is good," she said. "You remind me of the best parts of them." They walked together toward her ship. Ryan examined the systems while she followed, asking questions. The work went smoothly, and when it was done, Sariah invited him to visit the observation deck of her ship. When they entered, Ryan looked around with quiet awe. The room was full of soft light and transparent walls that showed the stars more clearly than any window on Blue Harbor. The floor glowed with a faint blue color, and a round table stood in the center with cups and a pot of warm drink. Sariah poured a drink for both of them. The smell was sweet and strange. She said it was made from a plant on her homeworld that grew near light water rivers. Ryan took a sip. The taste was gentle and cool. "This is different," he said. "It brings calm," Sariah said. "My people drink it when they wish to think clearly." "Then I will think clearly today," Ryan said with a small grin. She smiled at his reply. "You still use that grin as your answer to everything." "It works," he said. "It does," she said softly. "It works better than words sometimes." They sat together in the quiet light. Through the wide glass, the stars looked like living gems. The view made Ryan feel both small and peaceful. Sariah spoke again. "I have visited many worlds since we last met. I have seen places of power, beauty, and strange ideas, but none stayed in my mind like this station, and one quiet human who smiled at me without fear." Ryan looked down at his cup. Maybe you remember because it was different. Different in a way that mattered, she said. Most people meet me with titles and distance. You met me with calm. I meet everyone the same way, he said. Then your calm is a rare gift, she said. Ryan looked out at the stars. Sometimes calm is just a choice. The world is noisy. Someone has to stay quiet. You choose quiet even when the world is loud, Soraya said. That is what I find strong. Ryan smiled again. Strength is not always about power. Then what is it about? She asked. About standing where you are and not losing yourself, he said. Soraya looked at him for a long moment. You make simple words sound deep. Simple words are easier to carry, Ryan said. She laughed softly. I will remember that. They sat in silence again, watching the endless stars. Then Soraya pressed a small button on the table. The room changed slightly, and soft lines of light began to move along the walls, forming shapes of other worlds. These are memories, she said. Images from my home. Would you like to see them? Ryan nodded. The walls showed mountains covered in silver mist, wide rivers that glowed under twin suns, and floating gardens full of bright plants. The beauty of it took his breath for a moment. Your world looks peaceful, he said. It is, she said, but peace there comes from control. We shape our nature until it obeys us. Ryan thought for a moment. And humans live inside their mistakes until they learn from them. Your kind accepts imperfection, she said. That may be why you keep moving forward. Maybe we move because we do not like to stand still, he said. She smiled again. Every word you say sounds like a lesson. Then maybe I am an accidental teacher, he said. Or maybe you were always meant to teach calm, she said. They shared another quiet moment. The stars outside seemed closer. The air felt lighter. Soraya looked peaceful in that moment. Not as a noble woman, but as someone who had finally found a piece of truth she had been missing. Later, she showed him a piece of music from her world. It played as soft waves of sound that changed color with tone. The colors moved through the air like ribbons of light. Ryan watched with quiet wonder. It feels alive, he said. It is made from the pulse of living things, she said. Every sound comes from a heartbeat. Ryan listened closely. Then this music is full of life. Yes, she said. That is why we use it in healing. It sounds like peace turned into color, he said. Soraya looked at him with warmth. You have a way of describing things that makes them new. It is just how I see them, he said. She nodded slowly. And that is what makes you different. As they spoke, time passed without notice. The stars kept shining and the ship stayed silent. When the lights changed to evening mode, Soraya stood and said, You should see the gardens before you leave. She guided him to another part of the ship. Inside, a garden grew under a glass ceiling. Small blue plants glowed softly, and thin streams of water ran between smooth stones. The air smelled fresh like rain. Ryan touched one of the plants gently. It feels soft like silk. They grow from air water, she said. They survive on light. Maybe they are like hope, he said. They grow from what cannot be held. She looked at him with quiet respect. That is beautiful. They walked slowly through the garden. At the center stood a tree made of crystal-like branches that gave off a faint light. Soraya said it was called a memory tree. Her people used it to remember those who had touched their lives in some way. She placed her hand on the trunk, and a soft glow appeared. When we touch it, it stores a memory. It can never be lost, Ryan looked at her. What memory will you place there? The day I learned the strength of peace, she said. Ryan smiled. Then that is a good memory. Soraya turned to him and said, You are part of that memory, Ryan. He felt something quiet inside his chest, a warmth he could not name. I am honored, he said simply. They stood there for a while, listening to the soft sound of water and the hum of light. When it was time to return to the station, Soraya walked with him to the exit. She said, Each time I meet you, I learn something new. Each time I meet you, I see the universe in a new way, he said. Then maybe we are both students of each other, she said with a gentle smile. Ryan grinned. That sounds fair. As the station doors closed behind him, Ryan felt a quiet peace he had never known before. The stars above Blue Harbor seemed warmer, as if they had listened to every word spoken on that ship. That night, when Ryan sat by his window, he looked up again at the sky. The silver light of Soraya's ship shone faintly in the distance. He took a sip of his tea and smiled, knowing that somewhere across the stars another heart shared the same calm silence. The connection between them had become more than friendship. It was a bridge made of peace, built between two worlds that had always stood apart. And though Rian could not yet see where it would lead, he felt sure that the stars themselves were watching, waiting for what would come next. The morning light on Blue Harbor felt brighter than usual. The wide glass panels of the main corridor shone like silver, and the ships outside floated quietly under the pale glow of the nearby star. Ryan began his day the same way he always did, checking his tools and greeting the workers who passed him by. Yet inside him, there was a calm joy that he could not hide. He had not seen Soraya since her last visit, but her presence seemed to stay in every part of the station. The crew often spoke of her words, the declaration she made long ago in the hall. It had changed how people saw humans. They were no longer only seen as traders and workers. They were now known as steady allies who built bridges of trust. Ryan had never asked for any attention, yet the outpost commander began to send him to greet visiting ships. He had become the quiet face of the station, the one who made strangers feel welcome. Each time a new traveler arrived, they saw a calm human with a gentle smile and steady eyes. That alone seemed to ease many worries. One afternoon, while Ryan was working on a cargo panel, he heard a message come through the station speakers. A Volari ship had entered orbit and requested docking permission. The message carried a familiar tone. His hands paused for a moment. Then he cleaned his tools and walked toward the main dock. When the ship landed, the door opened and Soraya stepped out. She looked almost the same as before, though her clothing carried new markings that showed higher rank. She carried herself with grace, yet there was warmth in her eyes when she saw him. "Still working," she said softly. "And still calm," Ryan said. She smiled. "I see nothing changes here." "Things change slowly on Blue Harbor," he said. "But they do change." She walked beside him as they entered the main corridor. People turned to look, and some smiled with quiet respect. They remembered her face and her words. "The station feels more alive," she said. "You humans have been busy." "Busy keeps us growing," he said. "I see your people have built new sections near the west side," she said. "They look strong and clean. They are for trade," he said. "More ships come now than before. Some say your speech helped make that happen." Soraya looked thoughtful. "Then something good came from that day." "Many good things came," Ryan said. She looked around and said, "It feels strange to think that a few words could change the course of two worlds." "Words have power when they come from the heart," he said. She turned to him and said, "Then your calm grin started more than you know." He smiled slightly. "I only grinned because I did not know what else to do. And yet that small act became a message for all of us," she said. "Sometimes the simplest things become the most lasting." They reached the central garden where soft plants grew under artificial sunlight. Soraya touched one of the flowers gently. "Even your gardens remind me of home now," she said. "The gardeners said they took ideas from the images you shared," Rian said. "They wanted to make something that looked like the Volari gardens," she smiled. "It feels peaceful." They sat near the small fountain. The sound of water filled the quiet air. Ryan asked, "What brings you here this time?" Soraya looked toward the stars outside the window. "My council asked me to lead a new mission. We plan to create a joint academy between our people and yours, a place where we can share knowledge, study together, and learn without fear. I came to ask for your help." "My help?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You are not a leader by title, but your calm has done more than many speeches. I want you to be part of this beginning." Rian was silent for a moment. "I fix machines, not people." "You fix understanding," she said softly. "You remind both sides that strength can be quiet." He thought about her words. "I do not know if I am fit for such work." "You are," she said. "You simply do not see it." He smiled gently. "Then maybe I will try." "That is all I ask," she said. They spent the rest of the day speaking with the station leaders. Soraya presented the plan for the academy. It would be built on a neutral moon near the border between human and Volari space. Both sides would send teachers and students to learn about culture, science, and peace. The leaders listened carefully. When Soraya finished, Rian stood and added a few simple words. "If this academy can teach others to see peace the way we do here, then it will be worth building." His voice was calm, but his words carried a quiet strength. Everyone in the room felt it. The leaders nodded in agreement. The plan was approved that same day. That evening, Soraya and Ryan stood together on the upper deck looking at the stars. The lights of ships blinked in the distance. "You have done something good today," she said. "You started it," he replied. "We both did," she said. "I may have spoken the words, but you gave them meaning." He looked at the stars. "It is strange how small acts become large when others believe in them." "Belief can turn a spark into light," she said. Rion turned to her and said, "You always speak like a poet." "Perhaps you make me one," she said with a soft laugh. He smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. "Then I am glad for that." They stood in silence for a while. Then Soraya said, "When the academy is built, I want you to be there. Not as a worker, but as a guide." "A guide?" "Yes," she said. "Someone who reminds everyone that peace can begin with a grin." He laughed gently. "That sounds like a strange title." "It will suit you well," she said. Over the next weeks, plans for the academy moved quickly. Ships carried supplies and engineers from both sides. Ryan traveled to the new moon to help with designs and layout. He worked quietly, speaking little but listening much. People began to notice how calm he stayed during every problem, and how his patience kept the teams working together. Soraya visited often, guiding the project and keeping the connection strong. Each evening, they would walk through the half-built halls talking about the future. When the academy was finally complete, it shone under a sky filled with gentle clouds. The building was shaped like a circle, with open gardens in the center. It was made of human metal and Valari crystal, joined perfectly together. Inside, the air felt calm and bright. The opening ceremony brought people from many worlds. Humans, Valari, and even other travelers came to see the beginning of a new age. The banners of both worlds waved side by side. Soraya stood before the crowd and spoke with clear, steady voice. "Today," she said, "we open a place built not by power, but by understanding. Once I came to a human station and met a man who taught me that strength can be silent. His calm became the bridge between our worlds. This academy stands as proof that peace begins with respect." Her words filled the great hall. Ryan stood nearby, quietly watching. When her speech ended, the crowd applauded warmly. Soraya turned to him and said, "Come here." He stepped forward. She smiled and said to everyone, "This man, Ryan of Blue Harbor, reminded me that wisdom can come from quiet hearts. He belongs to no one, yet his calm belongs to all who seek peace." Ryan felt his face warm slightly, but he only smiled. The crowd cheered. Some laughed softly, remembering her first declaration years ago. The moment carried warmth and joy rather than surprise. After the ceremony, Ryan walked with Soraya to the garden. The plants from both worlds grew side by side, and small fountains filled the air with soft sound. "This place will grow," she said. "It will," he said, "and so will we." "You sound like a teacher already," she said. "Then I will have to learn how to be one," he said with a grin. "You already are," she said. They stood together under the soft light, watching the first students arrive. Some were human, some Valari, and some from distant worlds. They looked at each other with curiosity and hope. Rian felt a deep peace in that moment. He remembered his simple life on Blue Harbor, the quiet days, the tools in his hands, and the first time he met Soraya. It felt like another lifetime. Yet he was still the same person, calm, steady, and quietly content. Soraya turned to him and said, "Do you ever wonder how far this will go?" "No," he said. "It is enough to know it began," she smiled. "That is what makes you different." The wind moved softly through the garden. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if watching over them. Ryan knew that the bridge they had built would last beyond their own lives. It was not made of stone or metal. It was made of understanding. Later that night, when the crowd had gone, Ryan stood outside alone. The moon's light touched the academy walls. He felt calm and full of quiet pride. Soraya came beside him and said, "You still look at the stars the same way. They never stop shining," he said, "and you never stop smiling." She said, "It seems to work," he said, "It always will." She said softly. They stood side by side, looking at the sky. Two beings from different worlds bound by respect and calm friendship. The stars above them stretched endlessly, but for the first time in history, they felt a little closer. From that night on, travelers spoke of the human who smiled at the universe and the alien woman who declared him as her equal. Their story became a quiet legend across the stars, a story of peace, patience, and the power of a single human grin that changed the hearts of many. And as long as ships crossed the space between worlds, that story continued to remind everyone that true strength does not come from might, but from understanding.